Hello, welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick, and this is our review of the Nike Pegasus Trail 4. So the Pegasus Trail is a road to trail shoe. It's obviously the fourth in its line, and it comes as an extension almost of the road shoe, the Nike Pegasus, offering a similar feel for the trails. The latest version has been changed quite considerably to the Pegasus Trail 3, with almost the most noticeable change being that it's dropped in weight quite a lot. The new shoe is 294 grams in my UK size 9, which is at 10.4 ounces, whereas the previous shoe was way over 300 grams. It's got a 10mm drop from heel to toe, and it costs £114.95 in the UK and $140 in the US. Now, along with the drop in weight, the other really big change to the shoe is that the outsole pattern has changed. You've got a kind of a lot more smaller lugs instead of the kind of wide spread lugs that you got on the Pegasus Trail 3, which were key to its success as a comfortable shoe on the road, but sometimes meant it didn't really have the grip you needed on the trails. So we were hoping that this would have a little bit more bite on soft trails in particular, and also any time the previous version of the shoe got into kind of wet ground, they were a little bit dicey, so we were hoping to see an improvement on that front as well from this reconfigured outsole. The midsole is still a Nike React midsole. Nike's cushioning that divides opinion a bit. I quite like it in this kind of shoe because it is very durable, it's comfortable but not overly soft or squishy, so it provides quite a nice stable base for a road to trail shoe, and there is a bit of bounce there if you do want to up the pace. The upper is a breathable mesh now with kind of flywire cables to improve the fit around the midfoot, and it's lost a little bit of the protection you had on the Pegasus Trail 3, which included like a slightly more substantial toe bumper in particular. That's obviously reduced weight a little bit, but now you don't want to be kicking too many rocks and roots in this latest version of the shoe. One last thing to say is that our samples for this review are provided by Sport Shoes. We're not affiliated with Sport Shoes in any way, and as always, the review is completely unbiased, but I want to say a thank you to them for getting the shoes out to us so we could do this review.
So fit for me felt true to size in my UK size 8. Now I can't say I had major issues with the fit on the Trail 3, but I can appreciate the changes that Nike has made here that will make this a more comfortable shoe to run in. The first thing I think is most notable is it definitely sits a lot closer to the toes up front in this kind of toe box, so you still get a nice amount of space here on the top of your toes and the front of your toes, definitely plenty here on the sides as well, and then it kind of hugs very nicely and kind of in the midfoot and back at the heel as well. I definitely notice you get a little bit more padding in the tongue and particularly in the heel collar as well, so it does make it more comfortable and supportive at the back and kind of on the top of your foot as well. But yeah, in terms of fit, I would say go true to size in this shoe. I definitely feel like it fits quite well on a narrow foot, all fine on the fit front for me overall.
I would say the fit has changed a little bit from the Pegasus Trail 3. In the 3, it was very roomy in the toe box for me, and I probably would have been better off going half a size down in that shoe, whereas this shoe fits me much more comfortably true to size. It's got basically a nice amount of room in the toe box, especially for a trail shoe. There is a little bit of room there, so your toes aren't smashing into the front, but it's not too kind of saggy and baggy around there. And then I've got a nice hold around the midfoot and heel. No problems with that at all with any of the runs I've done in the shoe.
So in terms of my run test, now I have run a fair amount in the Peg Trail 4. As you can probably tell from the current condition, it's not very mango looking in terms of that colorway anymore, but it's kind of the shoe that I would probably use, trail shoe I'd use most, because I have to get to my bigger trails. It takes me kind of 15-20 minutes to get there, so I have to do some road time and then do some road time back. So I was very interested to see how the Trail 4 kind of compares and whether it is still a kind of standout road to trail shoe. Now, what I will say is I do think it feels very similar in terms of the experience. I think, and key to that is the fact you've got that React foam there, which feels firm enough, not too soft. I think it sits quite nicely in the middle, and I think that works in terms of something that suits roads and also suits trails. I do still think it's best suited to kind of light to moderate trails. I found it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more tricky to kind of navigate this kind of more technical trails that I tested it on. In terms of it being lighter, I can't say I had massive issues in terms of the weight with the previous Peg Trail, but ultimately, a lighter shoe always better. So, I think that's a bigger deal in the kind of long run in terms of using it for more mileage. And in terms of this outsole, so this is where it gets interesting for me. So the outsole has changed, and obviously the traction has improved on trail, which is a good thing. Ultimately, I think it takes something, away from it being, a good road shoe as well. It still does work very well on roads, but I do feel like I felt the lugs a little bit more in terms, the thickness and the deepness of these lugs haven't really changed, but it feels there's a little bit more here in comparison to what you're getting on the previous shoe. So that's what I would say. It almost feels like it's a little bit more of a traily shoe that also works on road, which I think it was a bit more of a better mix in terms of what I experienced and what, in the Peg Trail 3 personally. But I do still think, in terms of road to trail shoe, it's a really solid, it's an enjoyable shoe. The upper feels really comfortable to wear. I feel like you can run kind of short, you can run long in this. It feels like a nice, enjoyable shoe to run in. I think it's all kind of generally positives. What, my only kind of slight kind of gripe with it is that I have kind of noticed that it feels more of a trail shoe than it has before, which, if people are spending more time on trails and doing a little bit of road time, then I think it's going to be absolutely fine. I still do think it works fine on roads, but it's just something that I've noticed in terms of my testing. But overall, it's a shoe I've enjoyed running in. I still like the Peg Trail 3. I still think that's a really strong shoe. But in terms of my run test, all generally really positive. And it feels like a nice update on the Trail 3 overall.
So I've used the Pegasus Trail 4 for around 50k of running, and nearly all of them have been road to trail runs across a mix of varied terrain and generally at quite an easy pace. I've taken it on kind of 2 trips away now, and that really is where the shoe excels, in that you can just grab it, head out the door onto the road and go looking for some nice trails to run on. And then on the trail front, I've done a lot of light trails in it, like canal towpaths, kind of forest tracks here in the British summer where it is quite hot at the moment. But then also some slightly more kind of technical stuff. I've done some kind of short but steep running in the fells around the Forest of Bowland, and some kind of on looser ground, a bit of muddy ground, and some single track in the forest. But generally, it's summer here, they've all been quite hard, friendly trails, and that's really what the shoe is designed for. I'd say one concern I had was that it wouldn't be as comfortable as the Pegasus Trail 3, which was so comfortable on hard packed ground or the road, but that hasn't been the case. I still find this a really comfortable shoe to use for extended kind of road runs or on harder trails. Like the new outsole shape has provided a little bit better grip, which we'll come on to, but it also hasn't made the shoe uncomfortable at all on the road, I found. So the grip has been an improvement on the Pegasus Trail 3, I would say. It definitely gives you a bit more confidence when you are on muddy, slick ground or on wet ground. It's still not really outstanding on that kind of terrain, and it isn't designed to be. It is a road to trail shoe, but you can head out the door and know if you come across kind of short stints on more technical terrain, it's not going to let you down, even if you have to slow down a bit. I did have a few kind of loose sections on one run where I was heading downhill, and basically you can't take a sharp turn downhill on loose ground in the shoe. It's a struggle in any trail shoe, but you're really not getting enough grip here. You're going to be a bit slippery, so you have to slow down quite a lot. But I think kind of this kind of shoe generally be taken out on easy trail runs, on light trails, where if you do come on some more, more technical stuff, you're happy to slow down and enjoy the run, and you're not really gunning it across that technical terrain, which you might be in a more suitable shoe for like ultra racing, for example. I did do one run where I upped the pace a little bit in the shoe towards the end of the run, mostly on hard trails and then on the road, and it's got a bit of response in there. It's quite similar to the Pegasus road shoe in that, except it's a bit heavier and not quite maybe as springy. But you can do that in it. Like, it's a reasonable tempo shoe, and it's a shoe I could see being useful for long runs on the trails or longer races on the trails where you are on, like light, fairly friendly ground. But it's not an all-out speedster. That would be great for short racing on the trails, but it does a little bit of everything quite well while really excelling on those easy, relaxed runs on mixed terrain. I'd say this is a really strong update to the Pegasus Trail line. The 4 is lighter, it's just as comfortable, it retains like the good, impressive all-round design that make it quite a handy, versatile shoe to wear around the streets as well, even if it's not quite as nice as the teal version of the Pegasus Trail 3. And you are getting better grip, that gives you a little bit more confidence on those more tricky, slippery trails that you might come across in the shoe. It's still a shoe that I think excels in the same areas as the Pegasus Trail 3. It's a great holiday shoe. I like going away with it and, being comfortable using it for a range of runs and a range of terrains. And it's really comfortable on the road while still having that, that grip on the trails. So I think it does all the things the Pegasus Trail 3 did well, just a little bit better because you've got a lighter shoe with slightly better grip. So that's a great update for me. You can't argue with any of that. I think if you're looking for road to trail shoes that maybe are a bit more impressive on technical ground, I think the Innovate Parklaw G280, which came out this year, I think is really great for that. Like, it's got unbelievable grip. The lugs aren't the deepest in Innovate's range, but they do grip really well in the mud or on loose ground. But the shoe is still really comfortable on the road, like much more comfortable than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be basically a good trail shoe, but I found running long stints on the road in it very comfortable. So that might be the outstanding trail running road to trail shoe at the moment for me, but I think the Pegasus Trail 4 is a little bit better on the road. It's a bit more comfortable there, and even if it's a lot less comfortable on technical trails, it's still a great light trail shoe, and it's much cheaper than the Innovate, which is £160. So that is a big plus point for the Peg Trail 4. I think the other shoe I think it's probably worth considering if you're looking at this is actually the Pegasus 39 road shoe, which has a really excellent outsole for a road shoe. And I think most of the trails you're comfortable going on on in the Pegasus Trail 4, you'd probably be pretty happy on going on the Pegasus 39 road shoe. Slightly wetter stuff, this has an edge, it's got a bit more bite in the forefoot in particular with the new outsole, but in general the Pegasus Trail 39 is a pretty solid road to trail shoe in itself, while also being a little bit better on the road because I think it's a bit more responsive and springy at fast paces and slightly more comfortable at easy paces. So both of the Pegasus shoes actually work well as road to trail shoes, so it might really come down to how exactly your running breaks down. If you're slightly more trail, maybe get this, and if you're slightly more road, get the Pegasus road shoe. And if you have a quick look at how it compares to other Nike trail shoes that I've tested, which is basically the Terra Kiger 8, I think the Pegasus Trail 4 is a much better shoe all round. It's comfier, I think it's just as good if you're trying to up the pace, really almost as good on any kind of technical tricky trails. I don't really rate the Terra Kiger as a kind of nimble, agile trail shoe, which it's kind of positioned as. It's heavier than this. I don't think it's got much bounce, it's less comfortable than this on the road or any trails, and it doesn't really give you excellent grip on technical terrain. So if you're looking within the Nike range, of the shoes I've tested, I'd certainly be getting the Pegasus Trail 4, and it'll be interesting to see what's obviously happening in Nike Trail with all the kind of leaks coming out of ZoomX shoes and all that, but we haven't tested any of those yet, but we are excited to. But for now, the Peg Trail 4 is probably the pick of the bunch.
So my verdict is the Nike Pegasus Trail 4, and I'll start with how it compares to the Trail 3. I will say the upper feels better built for comfort. It is lighter, which is always a positive thing to see. I think the Nike React's midsole foam creates a similar ride, you know, in terms of what you're going to get in terms of road and trail, which I think, you know, works perfectly well. And then you definitely have got an outsole that works better or offers more grip in terms of those trails. I still think the types of trails this shoe works for remains the same. I think light to moderate trails. I think anything more challenging than that, and it, you know, I feel less, you know, confident in terms of using this shoe. In terms of other shoes that are out there that I've tested, road to trail shoes, things like the Innovate Park Claw, I felt like that worked a bit nicer on roads. Personally, I think the upper is nicer here, but I think in terms of that road to trail, I think that you know, the mixture of terrain, I think that works a bit nicer, and it, you know, I feel the types of trails it will work will be more varied in terms of this shoe. Things like the On Cloud Vista as well, which I think has got a nice light upper as well. You know, you've got to kind of love that kind of on cushioning tech to kind of get on with that shoe, but I do think it's less aggressive in terms of other on shoes that are out there, and I think that works perfectly well as well. And it's a nice looking shoe to kind of wear generally as well. But in terms, if I had to pick a road to trail shoe that I'm using or that I would use, this would probably still be it. I probably would still use the Trail 3 personally for me, just because I feel like it feels a bit nicer on the road elements, and I have to get to my trails as well. But if you have got kind of a good mix of kind of road to trail terrain and you're looking for an option, I think this is by far one of the strongest options you can go for. Probably the best that I've kind of used, though I will say that, you know, I am loving kind of using the Innovate Park Claw as well. But yeah, this is a really strong option if you are looking for a really comfortable, you know, road to trail shoe that offers good grip for kind of light to moderate trails. This is a really strong option.
That's it, guys. That is our review of the Pegasus Trail 4. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.